Hey, fellow fundraisers. This feels like a really good time to talk about disaster preparedness at nonprofits. Unfortunately, this is something that I've had a lot of experience with. In 2013, the little rental house that I was living in, and I had my 3-year-old with me at the time, was hit by an EF4 tornado. And the same tornado had hit the campus of the university that I was working for that was only a couple of blocks away. So we had damage on campus. My personal home was damaged. I was living with a coworker for a couple of weeks. And at the time, I was holding 3 jobs: my past job, my job I had just gotten a promotion for, and an interim position. My boss was holding down his job and an interim position. So 5 jobs between the two of us. And we had to navigate an ongoing disaster that was both personal and professional for me. So I learned a thing or two about preparing for disasters and what we wish we should have done and so forth. So I'm going to try to dole out some of these tips over the course of the week. Some of you are probably living through a disaster, and some of you are facing one with Milton. But there are different disasters for everywhere in the country. So let's talk about how we can get ready for them. So these are some of the things that I learned in the wake of a tornado disaster. So when disaster strikes, you need to act fast. Fundraisers don't really get a day off when it comes to this stuff. You're going to need to be raising money for relief efforts, and you need to have stuff ready for that. I recommend that most organizations go ahead and form an emergency fund or a disaster relief fund so that there is a place for those funds to land immediately, so that you can just have that fund added to your website or add it before the hurricane hits, so that you are ready to go. So make sure that you go ahead and create a landing spot for those funds that is meant for disaster recovery, because people are going to want to give as soon as possible. Fundraising after the disaster. This is a great place for things like crowdfunding, days of giving, these sorts of things. Also making sure that you are blocking certain areas. So if you're running a calling campaign, or if you had a mail piece in the works at the moment that you were hit with a disaster, you want to make sure that you can pull particular zip codes, that you can block particular zip codes, so that you are not soliciting the people who were directly impacted from the disaster, right? So you have to think through those things. Have your team prepared in advance, and that means having a backup for every important task. Because you don't know. I was out of commission for a day or two after the tornado because my actual home was impacted. So you don't know who's going to be out for what. And if there's only one person in your office that knows how to send out the email blast, you're going to be hindered in your ability to do your outreach in that time period. So having a person as Batman on every task, and Robin or Lucy and Ethel, is going to be important. Make sure that you cross-train your staff in advance. The other thing that I noticed during disasters is that your leadership is highly busy. They're busy. My boss was sleeping on his couch in his office. He wasn't going home. He was in cabinet meetings for a significant portion of the day with the executive leadership. So make sure that you have PR things drafted in advance, at least the block and tackle of what kind of messaging you're going to be putting out there. It's going to be very hard to get their attention and approvals at the level of detail you're probably normally used to. So, and then of course, don't just focus on the immediate relief, but also thinking through the long-term recovery. For our tornado, that meant not just buildings. The buildings were insured for the most part, but it meant helping the people, the faculty and staff that were impacted by the tornado, and having a plan for that, as well as trees. So the landscaping was something that was very important, a huge part of the spirit of the campus, and we were able to raise funds for that in the coming months. So things that you don't think about. So try to start to think about those things in advance and have a plan for the long-term recovery as it emerges. I'll be back with more tips all week about disaster preparedness for nonprofits.